Yes, Ramakrishna. Basically, today's topic is Formula Part 109, basically. And today, basically, we are going to discuss about something related to career, basically, and how basically this is going to take part in formulas. Basically, career means basically you can say software industry, basically. In software industry, how many types of career basically which has created basically which has been created by the set of groups basically you can say who actually designed the software industry basically from basically up to that level basically we are going to see today. So it's basically about the careers basically of the software industry group basically who have just started their career, who is going to start their career, anybody will basically can join the software industry, but this they should have a knowledge of software and the technology. It's like that basically, but today we are going to discuss about that only basically. So basically in software industry, lots of people are there basically working, like b's are there, bcom people are there, mcom are there, mcs are there, bcs are there, mtech, btech, diplomas, diplomas holder basically, and msc is there, bsc is there, ba is there, ma is there, and basically many degrees people basically works here in software industry basically. So basically here the main is basically the career path basically, career path of the software industry basically you can say the people who basically started the career and then basically they reached up to middle level and then basically they want to jump into the management level. So it's like that basically. So in management level basically how they can start with the career like that basically. So first we will start with the starting basically. Whenever the people basically joins the software industry, assume that they have cleared the done the studies and then basically done the software industry course also, and then basically they jumped into the software industry career basically. So like this basically assume that in software industry where there are basically many types of companies basically, software companies basically you can say. In that company basically there are many types of company like software normal company, private limited company basically, few companies basically not registered, few private companies, public limited company, then cmm level 5 company, 1 2 3 4 cm level, that type of company, then IOS level companies, then the Six Sigma companies like this. Like this, basically, there are many software companies basically which has been registered by the government group basically. You can say. So these all companies basically has been approved by the government basically. That is basically Indian government basically, who says that we have approved this all the software companies, and like this on the base of approval basically the software companies is going to work, and according to that only that turnover is going to be happen basically. So if the turnover gets increased, then basically they change the type of the company basically, because the few companies basically says that up to this level only basically these groups can earn. If they says that we can earn more than this, then basically they have to change the type of the company basically. It's like that also basically, because it's a registered company. Registration rules and regulation comes into the picture basically like that basically. Then basically um, now basically we are going to see about the which types of company do which type of job. For example, the normal software company. Normal software company basically don't require any project management plans, softwares, and then the documentation. Basically, they don't require, because their tasks are up to that level. Basically, they says that we need this task in 2 3 days. Their clients basically are up to that level only. They says that they want task in 2 3 days. Then basically how basically the documentation will get, because to prepare only document basically takes more than 2 to 3 weeks basically minimum basically. So how basically will do the documentation? So basically directly they do the work basically. So there is no documentation or coordination. But here the rework basically lots of things happen basically. But the software company prepares their task and they do their task in like this way only. So like this basically the normal company. Then the private limited company who basically are registered. Then they basically takes their, for example, there is one software private limited company. They told that we got this project. They have sent the proposal. Um, according to the quotation and proposal, basically they got the project, and the proposal was accepted by the client, and then they got the project. And then basically they have already given the time that this many time is going to take. So private limited software company can give the time basically. So here basically if they accept the proposal, that means they have accepted the time framework basically. So they have accepted the time, and it was told that within this time period basically your project is going to be finished and your project will be deployed basically. So like this basically the private limited company do their commitments. So according to the time basically they can prepare the documentation, they can do the prepare the project management plans. So basically they can do the systematic work. But here basically the question is doing the systematic work basically they can give the good output basically, and they can have a long term maintenance plan basically. Because if they are jumping into maintenance, that means basically they have to finish the project in time also, and that also with quality level work. And basically because quality level work basically why they do, because in future the project manager can change, project developer can change, any basically quality departments can change, but the documentation which is prepared basically on the certain level of format basically, that basically never changes. So like this basically the documentation plays most important role basically. And then basically the according to the project specification, project management plan, the project has completed basically. Like this, the quality department plays the main role. Like this, basically each and every departments are basically. So here, basically, what I want to say, I want to say that there are many roles basically, which basically the professional basically who are jumped into the just software industry, they can have a role basically. For example, few people says that they are good in development basically, they are good into coding basically, so they can jump into coding, they can do the coding developers development part. So basically whenever they were studying basically that time basically they might have done the coding, but that coding and this coding are totally different basically. Here the basically live environment coding is there. So like this basically the codings are done, coding post is there, then basically quality level work is there, that is basically testing level work, project specification level preparation work, then project management plan work. This all basically the project manager does basically. Project manager, project directors do basically. The UTC work is there. That is basically unit test case work is basically, that is basically done by the tester basically. Nowadays basically the manual testing is also there, and major basically the automatic testing are there. There also basically, but you have to set the condition. Without that basically you can't do the testing, right? Because how user will know basically, how user will know basically the this all are the conditions basically you have to. So there is no basically automated system basically in this world basically. It just they will pass the URL, and according to the URL only all the conditions are taken, and then basically the testing is done. This type of automated testing is still basically the software industry has not done basically. So they might be doing also, but that would be basically very tough and very um, very tough basically. But that basically is, few people says that that is also preferable. For few people says that our manual testing is also manual testing is good, and few people says that the automated testing is there. Few basically conditions basically we passes, and then basically according to the condition basically the testing happens, and then the log report generates, and according to that basically we do pass the errors to the developers basically. Then the reprocess happens. So like this basically the quality level tasks are there. So the group basically who are into good into quality level work, they can jump into the quality level task. Who says that they are good in that coding level part, then basically the code in coding level part also, coding is also there basically for there. Few people says that nowadays basically what happens, it's each and every project basically are developing the WordPress basically. WordPress basically are basically user friendly basically tool basically. You just required a few drag and drop, and basically there basically the websites creates basically in few time basically, few days basically. So like this basically the WordPress is also there basically. Mostly basically there is no required of the coding, but the little bit basically complicated project basically require the coding standard basically. So basically you should be good in coding, then only basically you can able to do the WordPress project basically, because you should be good basically in coding, and you should be good in coding plus designing basically in WordPress basically drag and drop and designing part basically. So WordPress is also there. So by like this basically the coding standard basically says that you drag and drop like coding also are there basically. You can develop the project. So basically there are many modules basically, many editors basically, which is called ready-made editors are there, ready-made modules are there, ready-made forms are there basically, that basically automatically just require the drag and drop, and then basically it will automatically take the data into the database. So there basically internal database is also there. Fields also basically you don't have to create, each and everything basically creates automatically. But basically if you require some customization, if you require some little bit customization coding which basically does not exist in pre coding or done by the WordPress group basically, like that basically if project exists then basically you have to go with the coding side only basically, and few complex code complex project basically it's not possible in the WordPress also. So basically for that basically the .NETs are there, .NETs are there, PHPs are there, Pythons are there, Pythons are there, C is there, C++ is there, Java is there basically. So Java, this all C++ that are basically object-oriented programming basically you can say. So you should be good in the object-oriented programming basically. You can say modular group. You should be good in the modular function creation, procedure creation, class creation, then basically class, namespace creation. Like this basically there are many stuff basically there. So basically your base should be very powerful basically. If you are doing in you are you want to jump into the object oriented programming, that is basically Java, C, C++, .NET is also there. And like this basically .NET is not fully object oriented, but basically you should know basically. So like this basically programming tools are there. Then basically database level parts are there. Database level part basically you can say the DBAs are there, the non-DBAs are there, developers are there basically. The RDBMS tool is there. DBMS basically relational management system basically, where you can do the relation, and DBMS basically previous part database side basically there basically DBMS relation basically you can't do, you have to do everything manually. But here the in RDBMS basically each and everything's are relational based basically. So with relational based basically you can say each and every basically tables are relationally basically connected with it. For example, there is one table called employee table, and in that basically grade one grade field is there. So basically grade are around more than 15 grades are there. So basically for that basically you can create grade master table and have a unique ID of grade ID, and then that grade ID basically you can take into employee table basically. So grade ID and grade ID of employee, and grade employee master table, and and grade master table. So both variables are basically grade ID are basically common. So basically this had like this basically a relationship management even. So like this basically this is about the relationship management. So basically you don't need to do any relationship management, just you have to fetch the selects data basically. So here basically in database side basically there are two many types of fields basically, like DBAs are there basically, and database developers are there, performance tuners are basically there, and then basically application level data programming are also there in the Oracle basically. So like this basically many database level means you can do the coding basically in the procedures, in the functions basically, and what are procedure and function that basically everybody knows. So like this basically programming basically can also be done in the database side basically. And programming are done basically reason is, if basically there are crores of data basically, and that basically required some set of procedures and set of validations is required, and then basically set of task has to be done from that data, then basically the programming is must basically. So for that basically you can use procedures, functions are there, packages are there. So you can create like this basically and do the manipulation of that particular 1 crore to 2 crore data basically. So for that basically you can't use a front end tool basically, that's there basically the back end is required, that is basically database level programming. Basically, if you will doing the front end, basically, then it will hang the basically process basically. So basically nowadays, basically the backend level programming are also there. Then basically the DBA level stuff. Basically, DBA level stuff means basically you want to do the database level task. Basically, sometimes basically what happens, the database get crash. Then basically the database needs to recover. Then the backup plan is required. Then basically set of data file basically needs to have basically sometime what happens, the data basically gets over than the basically the size. Then basically that time basically database file is basically required. Then basically we will here basically we are stopping here. So this is basically 109th part. Basically in 110th we will be seeing the part of this basically.